You might remember a time when you didn't yet know how deeply change was already beginning. Or maybe you don't remember because forgetting the old is sometimes the first sign of installing a new belief. Because what if what seemed like limitation was just the illusion of a cage that never had a lock? What if every time you felt stuck, trapped, waiting, you're already gathering the momentum to break through? And maybe, just maybe, the moment you begin to notice what you hadn't noticed before, you realise the pattern that held you was already cracking. You're always the one who could shake the cage. You were just waiting for the moment you remembered. You already knew how. You only feel trapped in the cage that you refuse to shake. But what if there was no cage? Just habits dressed as steel, rules you never agreed to, beliefs installed without permission, patterns begging to be interrupted now. Because when you interrupt what was, you allow what will be to arrive. And here's where it gets interesting. Once a mind begins to rewire itself around freedom, it starts forgetting what used to hold it and remembering its own power. Imagine a tiger raised in a zoo. Never tasted the wild. The walls of its cage, just ideas, painted in the air. One day the gates open and the tiger hesitates because the pattern is stronger than the lock. But when it steps forward, it feels something, and that something is called truth. You're the tiger, the cage was never real. Now step forward. You are not who you were. Because the one who's brave enough to break patterns becomes the one who writes the new rules. And rules are made by those who dare to challenge them. When you realise beliefs shape reality, you can shake the structure and build a better one. Every old pattern becomes just another feedback loop. Every stuck moment a signal from the future saying, this is where you grow. So let's teach you through examples you never realised you already lived. When you laugh in a moment of pain, that was emotional flexibility. When you stood up after falling down, that was resilience being born. When you chose to try again, that was the beginning of mastery. Each moment, each move, each decision to respond instead of react was you rewriting reality. And if reality is a mirror, then crack the mirror and watch the reflection change. Because when the strongest frame wins, let yours be one of fire. The fire that consumes limitation and forges identity. You're the breaker of chains, the shaper of self, the disruptor of distortion, the creator of clarity. The one who doesn't just adapt, you evolve. When they ask, how did you change so fast? You'll smile and say, I shook the cage. Maybe that cage was built of thoughts. But thoughts are just patterns. And patterns are just stories. And stories can be rewritten. So write yourself a new myth. The one where you wake up powerful. Where you don't need permission. Where happiness is a choice. Where confidence is your default setting. Because isn't it fascinating? The people who believe they're limitless find more opportunities. And the ones who take action before they're ready always seem to be the lucky ones. And isn't it obvious now? The momentum matters much more than perfection. Because you've been waiting for something, and now that something has been waiting for you. And from now on, when you feel the edges of resistance, you remember resistance is proof of growth. You'll remember every emotion is a doorway. You'll remember certainty can be cultivated. You'll remember your presence is a gift. You'll remember you're not the person who stays in the cage. You're the one who writes the rules. And every breath from here forward, it's coded with power. Because you're installing a new operating system, one that runs on resilience, fueled by focus, driven by freedom. And maybe you don't even need to understand how all of this works, because it's already working. Right now, under the surface, silently rewriting everything that you thought was true. Until what's true is that you're unstoppable. And as that transformation deepens, you begin to see with different eyes. Think with different thoughts. Feel with new frequencies and act like the new identity has always been there.